history's hazy, like driving in the pouring rain. Are we in too deep to heal? You tell me that you're sorry, we'll make up tomorrow. Tell me everything you know I wanna hear. I'm trying to be open, but that window is closing. And either way, I need to make it clear before we're leaving here. Before we're leaving here.
I know it ain't easy, but there's something left to hold on to. We can work it through, you don't have to go. There's a future here with me. We'll find the light in a clouded room. Not giving up until you know.
You tell me that you're sorry, we'll make up tomorrow. Tell me everything you know I wanna hear. I'm trying to be open, but that window is closing. And either way, I need to make it clear before we're leaving here. Either way, I need to make it clear before we're leaving here.
And shalom, everyone. Shalom. I want to welcome everyone to the house of the Lost Sheep of Israel. I was texting one of my moderators that was saying I forgot to actually talk to them to let them know what was going on. So I do apologize to them, and they know who they are because they had just texted me, and I forgot to let them know that this the chat was going to be disabled today based on what we're teaching today. And we really want to understand and what the focus is still with the moderators. You know, they do an outstanding job on helping everyone, but then it also it's a double-edged sword, because as they doing it, many times they got to go back and really watch things, because what they doing, they paying attention to what I'm saying, and they helping you guys put in the verses. I have one who take outstanding notes, and she's always eager to do notes for not just mine, for also do them for the other elders as well as the deacons. And she has to go back and go over it to where she want to get what she want. And today, I just want to make sure and just kind of let them relax because they have been putting in beautiful work, and I appreciate each and every one of them for what they do. Today, we have to look at this here, and I want to make sure that everyone can understand where we're coming from as House of the Lost Sheep of Israel, as well as King James Bible University, as well as myself. I want to make sure you know exactly where I'm coming from. And with this, we have reached this point to where we have to address this. We have to address the law. And the reason we have to address the law for the simple fact that many of us have used this in different ways. And we have a problem. We have a serious problem. And the problem is with understanding what's really involved in the law of God. This is where a serious problem is. So what I want to make sure, excuse me, as we get ready to get started, I want to make sure you have a paper and pencil ready, because we're going to go through some things that going to really probably shock you in different aspects, but it's going to show you exactly what's going on. So we're going to go through this because many things I had to remove based on I wanted to go another route that I really wanted to do. I wanted to show people how I actually study and to help them deeper in their studies. The problem we have there is we have so many people who come in and the arrogance is there. The arrogance is there. And I try to tell people, please don't think, even when people are being fake about stuff and this, please don't ever think that you're fooling me. And something I was been like all the time, the thing we have to do, even when people do that, I have to let it play out. I don't just check you right at the start. I have to let that play out. And there's reasons for that. And it's the same thing that the God of Israel do. He let things play out to show exactly what is going on. And we need to understand what the difference is with the law. We got to find out even later what's going on with Christ. Because we, as a people, as a whole, I'm not saying everybody, but as a whole, a lot of us don't take this really, truly serious. And it almost like we enter into a place of Elysium. And most people might have heard that term, but Elysium is it's a mythological paradise, which people believe in, that they are gods in some way, or they are saved people in some way. And this is where we have a problem at. This is where the biggest issue is. And since we have this issue, we have entered into this arena where we believe that we are mythologically higher than everybody else. Problem. And I want to share some things with you before we get started. Give you time to get your paper and everything ready. But did you know? I'm gonna just share some things with you just to see how well we understand stuff. Did you know that the law of the land states that it declared guilty is innocent, and they call innocent guilty? In which position? Most people don't even know this. Excuse me. The law of God is where we had a problem. Because we mixed this same thing up with that. So we mix this up together. And it's the same reason why we have church and state. They use church and state and they'll tell you separating church and state. But it's really together. It's actually together. We're going to be sharing all that. Because they use that to overstep the truth of the law of God, to violate the truth on what is true. And it's a covenant. And the problem we have with this, to truly understand what a covenant is, why I have the issue with this personally, is we don't quite understand what covenant actually is, in which is covenant is a government. It's a government. But what? We got to understand but what it is. Because when we look at the covenant, we have to look at the functioning and how it actually works in its spiritual realm based on a pledge, a promise, an agreement between two parties. And this is where we lose focus. This is why we have these problems. So with the Most High God making a covenant within his world is what we come here all the time and talk about, all the time and teach on, all the time and get people to understand what is happening here is what we do. But the problem is people like to work that within the government structure of the world, which we have a problem. We have to remember what the covenant is. A covenant, and make sure you write, please make sure you write down, because I did that for this reason here. Because you need to make sure you're going to write some of this stuff down, because a covenant within his world, within the Most High God's world, is structured on a pledge, structured on a promise, structured on an agreement between God and another party. The foundation of this covenant is within the covenant itself is the agreement. I'm not talking crazy to you. I'm telling you exactly what's going on. And I'm going to show you an example of this because I want to make sure we clearly getting what's going on. So we're going to pick this up. We're going to look at Genesis chapter 6 and verse 13 to understand the covenant on how covenant of God works. And we're going to see this here in Genesis chapter 6, and we're going to pick it up at verse 13. And he says, and God said unto Noah, the end of all flesh is come before me, for the earth is filled with violence through them, and remember, I will destroy them with the earth. You see how serious he's talking about. But we like to play a game there. We got to get rid of the game because he's dead serious. And he's saying he's going to get rid of them with the earth. So God is going to he's going to destroy all flesh because of the violence through man. Because every imagination and every thought was only evil. This is what we did. This is what we do. This is how we think. Only evil. And this is why I say most people come and they come in friendly, good tidings and everything else. But behind them is something that is evil. Don't ever think that he don't show these things to me. This is where we had the issue at. And we want to understand, but Noah found grace in the understanding in the eyes of God and with the Spirit of God. So what he did, he made a covenant. He made a covenant with him, which was an agreement to come into a government of peace. And we got to see how this works. Because he's telling you right there. So we're going to jump a little bit just to understand what's going on, to find out how everything works. Let's look at this, and we're going to move down. We're going to go down to 18. But I'm going to go over here in another thing because I want you to see how it actually works to where we can start really getting it. It says, but with thee I will establish my covenant. Do you see what he's saying? I will establish my covenant. It's not a covenant of the world, not a covenant of this thing. It's God's covenant. And he said, I will establish my covenant which when he's telling you he's going to establish, he's going to make, he's going to prepare something for you. And he's saying, I'm going to make my covenant. And it says, including thou shalt come into the ark, thou and thy sons and thy wife and thy sons' wives with thee. This is what he's telling us. But watch how much he gets through this. Watch how much he goes through this. Watch this. Verse 19. Verse 19. It says, and of every living thing of all flesh, two of every sort, thou shalt bring into the ark, and keep them alive, that they shall be male and female. We're going to find out something that's really important. Watch how he's saying this, because we want to pay attention to what's going on. And you look at this here, and it says, of fowls after their kind, including of cattle after their kind, every creeping thing of the earth after his kind, every two sort shall come unto thee, and keep them alive. I want you to keep excuse me. I want you to keep them alive. So this is happening, and it's going into the ark of God. So everything outside of the ark, everything outside of the heart, the desires of God, is going to be destroyed. So God is going to actually establish his covenant, his agreement, his government. He's going to do it right there with him, is what he's saying. Now, once they come in, he declares something, and he's going to order it. He's going to tell you what he's going to do. Covenant. It was an agreement that he told him. And you see this agreement, you come in here, and I want you to keep everything alive, but I'm going to make an agreement with you. And with this agreement, we're going to find out what's happening. So let's go over here to Genesis. We're going to move up some now. We're going to go to Genesis chapter 9, but we're going to pick it up at verse 11. So we're going to move over, and we're going to look at this and find out more so what's happening. It says, I will establish my covenant with you. Full thought. This telling you right here. Now he's going to give him details, what was going on and why he's doing what he's doing. This is what he's doing for him. And he says, neither shall all flesh be cut off anymore. So he's not going to cut off flesh anymore for a certain reason. Watch what he says here. Cut off anymore by waters of a flood. I'm telling you, when we catch it, it says neither. One second, I need people to stop doing this. So he's saying neither shall flesh be cut off any more by waters of a flood, neither shall there any more be a flood to destroy the earth. He's telling us right here, because we're going to find out something that's really interesting. They're going to find out something really, really, really interesting. He's going to tell us something, because the covenant is the agreement, but he want to remind us of something. And this is the same thing with God, because when you look at Numbers 23 in verse 19, this is why these statements are made. It says, God is not a man that he should lie, neither the son of man that he should remember. Hath he said and shall not do it, or hath he spoken and shall not make it good? He's telling you way back over here in Genesis chapter 6 and verse 13 that he's going to end all flesh. He gets to verse chapter 6 and 18. He says, I'm going to establish a covenant with you. And it goes on a couple of chapters. Get to chapter 9. He didn't have to remember this. He already promised this. This is something already was set up. And part of the reason is what we need to find out. And when he spoke something, we need to remember what he's talking about. And you can see this here when you go back, and we're going to look at something. We'll find this over in Genesis chapter 7, but we're going to pick this up and we're going to start seeing some of the documentation back here in verse 21. We're going to start seeing it. He says, including all flesh died, moved upon the earth, both fowl and of cattle and of the beasts and every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth and every man. It's interesting. I'm going to tell you why, because we're going to see something that's going to shock many of us as we get into it. It says, all those whose nostrils was the breath of life. That's the key right there. That's the key right there. Whose nostrils. Excuse me. The reason the nostrils is so important, I want you to make sure you understand this, because they have a couple of other connotations, but one of the things is either it was anger or the Spirit of God. Anger or the Spirit of God. It was one of the two that was there. So he said, in whose nostrils, whose Spirit of God was the breath of life. So he's making this clear. He's making this pretty clear. In fact, we're gonna go somewhere, and I want to make sure we remember this all together. And the same thing is what I'm gonna do here. What I'm going to do here is this. We're gonna look at these here, and we're gonna see what it says. So we understand what that's saying. So we're going to find out what that's saying. Anger, the Spirit of God. So we get that. Now we know more so what's going on there. But let's go back and finish this out. So it's saying also, whose all nostrils, who all angered the Spirit of God was the breath of life. Is what did, because what happened. They was doing something that he told them not to do, and they was out there acting crazy. And he says, and all that was in the dry land died. All that was in the dry land died, meaning it was cut off. It was cut off. And I want to make sure we get that one. I want to make sure we understand that one also. So make sure that these are there, and then we can continually move forward. This is why I said I was cutting out some stuff. I wanted to make sure some things was done. And I want to make sure we understand this. And it died. It was cut off. So now we know what that is. Now we know what that is also. Now, as we continually move forward, we got those pretty clear. So all living was destroyed. That was all that was living that was destroyed, because they received not the love of the truth. Is what's going on here. They didn't receive the love of the truth. And you see right here, when we get down to 23, it said, every living substance was destroyed, which was upon the face of the ground, both man and cattle and creeping things and fowls of the heaven, and they were destroyed from the earth, including Noah only remained alive. Only Noah only remained alive, including they that were with him in the ark. But everybody else was cut off. So now we come to these things that people try to figure out what's going on. Because they received not the love of the truth, but they was letting deceivableness and unrighteousness that this way that they'll perish, because now they're receiving the seal for destruction, because God said he will not cut off any more by the flood of doctrine. By the flood of doctrine. We got to keep that in mind. We got to keep this in 100% in mind. And watch what happens. He says this, and you'll see right here. He says, "In the waters prevailed, the knowledge prevailed in the earth in 150 days." This happened. And once this goes on, we want to understand exactly what is happening here. Exactly what is happening here. This is why it's going to get so important here. This is why it's going to get so much important, and where we need to know what's going on. So let's pick it back up, and we're going to go back over to 9 and 12. I need to go back to 9 and 12 here, and then we can keep this one running. And 1 second, we're going to go to 9, and we're going to pick it up at verse 12 now. And then we're going to see what happens. In verse 12, it says this. It says, "And God said, this is the token of the covenant." You see, this is the token of this agreement. This is what he's doing. This is the agreement which I make between me and you and every living creature that is with you for perpetual generations. He's clear here. 100% clear. So now this is the game changer. This is a game changer, which a lot of us we're going to figure out. Because that right there, that one statement right there that he's saying, this is a 100% game changer. And this is the token that we have. And he's given us a token between him and us and every creature for a perpetual generation. That's the game changer. And we're going to find out this even later, but we're going to find out this right now, because it goes and we see this right here in verse 13. Here's your game changer, because this is the token. This is the token. He says, "I will set my bow in the cloud, and it shall be for a token of a covenant between me and the earth." This is a game changer. Most people don't understand what they're saying, but we're going to find out what everything's saying. Because the cloud is just talking about the body. It's just talking about the congregation of the body of Christ. That's all the cloud is. But the bow is the problem. Is what we got to find out what that is. Because he said he's going to set his bow in there. But the bow is a token. The bow and token don't mean nothing but evidence of the promise. Are you with me? We're gonna go through a couple of things. We're gonna get this, but I want to make sure I take my time to where we can understand it. So we're gonna see what happened here, and we're gonna find out what's going on here. Let me take you over here, and we're gonna see. I'm gonna show you something on what he's doing, just to give you a heads up on this. And we're gonna look at this in Numbers chapter 12 and verse 6. Numbers chapter 12 and verse 6, and he says this. It says, "And he said, hear now my words, providing there be a prophet among you, the Spirit of God will make himself known unto him in a vision, and will speak unto him in a dream." So if it's a prophet among you, this is how he's going to talk to that prophet. He's pretty clear. In fact, to even bring more clarity here, we're going to find out something in Psalms chapter 78. In 78, and we're going to look at verse 2. And as he's speaking to him, he said, "I will open my mouth in a parable. I will utter dark sayings of old." So now we kind of understanding his construct a lot better. Because he's saying, I'm going to speak to this prophet this way. And we can remember even some things what Paul even said even once. We can look at this and just show you some things what Paul even said. And Paul said this in 1 Corinthians. Picking it up at chapter 14, but we're going to look at this at verse 4. And Paul going to tell you the same thing It says, he that speaketh in an unknown tongue, in a parable, in a dark saying, he that speaketh in an unknown tongue edifying himself. So if he's doing this, excuse me, to people, he's only edifying himself. That's it. He's not doing anything to help anyone, to benefit them in life. Because the job of the prophet is to interpret and to show you that what's going on through the precepts of God. So if he's doing this and he's edifying himself, but he says this, he says, but he that prophesieth edifieth the church. He gonna edify the body. So when he hear these parables and he can see them, he can tell you what they are. He's edifying the body. In fact, it gets better. Goes down verse 14. We'll see a little bit more. 14, it tells you this. It says, for if I pray in an unknown tongue, excuse me, I pray in an unknown tongue, my spirit prayeth, but my understanding, you see what he's saying? If you're doing it in a parable, your understanding is unfruitful because you don't understand what you're saying. This is the thing. So the reason why he's saying this over here, I'm going to set my bow. We got to find out what that is. So he's going to set his bow in the cloud. He's going to put it amongst the body. This bow going to be in the body. And it's going to be in the body of Christ. So we're going to see a little bit more. It says, and it shall come to pass when I bring the body over the earth that the bow, we got to find out what that is, shall be seen in the cloud. Interesting, isn't it? That is highly, highly interesting. So we need to know what that bow is. And the bow is sitting there. So when the Spirit of God brings the body, the true worshipers of God over there, so the bow is the parable, because that's all a bow means. It's a parable, the image or the similitude that is seen of the body of Christ. Interesting, isn't it? And to bring that a little bit closer, we're going to see something. To bring that a little bit closer, we're going to see something to where we can understand it. So, we're going to look at this a little bit better. The bow. That's what the bow is. It's telling you the entire time. So the bow can have many different things. Then it's the pole. What it is. Real straightforward, simple. So now let's go back and get a better understanding here. We're going to go back and get a better understanding here. Now, when he says this, he says, and it shall come to pass when I shall bring a crowd, a congregation over the earth, that the prophet shall be seen in the body. That's why he says, I'm going to raise up your prophet among your brethren. That's why he says these things. He's making himself clear the entire time. Making himself clear the entire time. In fact, we can look at something. I'm going to show you another way he looks at this. In Deuteronomy, we're going to look at this in 28. In 28, actually, before I get there, I do want to make sure something else is there. Before I get there, I want to make something else is there. So let me go down a little bit, because before I get to that one, I want to show you something. Because seeing that this will help us out a little bit. It says, I will remember my covenant. You see again, I will remember my covenant, which is between me in you and every living creature of all flesh. In the waters, the knowledge is everything, shall no more become a flood to destroy all flesh, because he has set a bow there. He put a prophet there. Everybody, we should get this now. And we see this here. We're going to see what's going on. It says, including the bow shall be in the cloud. It's going to be amongst the people. And when I look upon it, I may remember the everlasting covenant between God and every creature and all flesh that is upon the earth. He's clear. Pretty clear. But it gets better. That's why I wanted to go to Deuteronomy chapter 28, but we're going to pick it up at verse 37. I want to show you what goes on here. In verse 37, it says this, and it's going to be, again, pretty clear. Pretty clear. And this is why he says this. It says, and it shall become an astonishment, and thou shalt become an astonishment, a proverb and a byword among all nations, whither the Spirit of God shall lead thee. You're going to be a visual proverb and byword. Because when he set these people, he set this image before you. He put this person there. And we choose not to take it serious. We play games with it. I'm telling you, it's our own dang fault we do this. It's our own fault we do these things. In fact, we had to go back to 23 and 28. Remember this? This is why he says this. It says, the heaven and thy heaven that is over thy head shall be brass, and the earth shall that under thee shall be iron. I wonder why. Because when he sets something before you, we choose, no, it's something better. No, it's something better. And this is the biggest problem we have. This is the biggest problem we have. Because no matter what we do, no matter what is said, no matter what happens, this is the issue. So I'm going to show you why. I'm going to show you something, why it's so irritating. I want to show you why this is so irritating. And it's more irritating, and it gets me upset about a lot of things. But I'm going to show you, and I've shown you, many truths. King James Bible University, Lost Sheep of Israel, showing you many truths. Many truths. And the problem is, you have people go out and they get these outside resources and different things. They come up with their own analogies. And then they want to be met with pushback. And it's not meant, the scriptures is not meant for pushback. It's meant for learning and understanding, to which you can see how to apply that in your life. That's what it's for. Not to sit there to try to exhibit that you know something. I have shown you parables. I show you the breakdowns, riddles, breakdowns, visions, the breakdowns. And these things I do know that most people can go across web, they can scour anywhere. And I already know what you're going to find. That I already know. Because people want to play games and not check the Word of God to see what truth really is. So I'm gonna show you a parable. I'm gonna show you a parable, and this is the thing. This is the thing we're gonna look at, and why we want to understand what is happening here. And we're gonna go over here. We're gonna pick this up in 1 Kings. In 1 Kings chapter 18. We're gonna go down to verse 21. We're gonna start there. We're gonna find out a few things here. 1 Kings 18:21. Right there. That's where we're going to start. The reason we're going to start there because I want to show you something. I want to show you a parable and for us to understand it. And it says, and Elijah came unto all the people and said, how long hath ye between two opinions? If the Spirit of God be God, follow him. You didn't hear him say, follow me. You didn't see him. He said, if the Spirit of God be, follow him. But if Baal, then follow him. And the people answered him not a word. This is again the problem. Because many people have sat there and they try to follow a man and not God. So it's a problem between two opinions. So you have the law of people. Is that true? Or you have the covenant with God? Or do you have the love of another that is still vain? So if you see the two opinions is based on what you see and based on the word from God. However, you have most people, only one form is coming from God. Only one. The other is coming from Baal. I don't care how we look at this. So today we have to sit there and we have to follow what we really believe. So some people are going to follow the doctrine of Baal no matter what. No matter what. And this is not talking about people on outside channels. This is talking about people who hear. That they're keeping a covenant with things that was created by men. In their suitcase. In their suitcase. In fact, let's move down a little bit more. Let's move down a little bit more to understand what's going on here. It says, then said Elijah, and just in case many of us don't know what Elijah means, because we based on functions. So since Elijah means my God is the Spirit of Yahweh. That's what his name actually means. Elijah. My God is the Spirit of Yahweh. That's what that name means. So Elijah said unto the people, I, even I, only remain a prophet. I remain a prophet. Even I, remain a prophet of the Spirit of God. But Baal prophets are 450 men. Interesting, isn't it? Interesting analogies, aren't they? But we got to see what goes on here. We want to see and understand what's going on here. Because God feeds, see, he even feeds his workers. And his workers are, you see, fowls of the air, but you see, you don't have to go out there and feed not one bird. And them birds will show up every morning outside. You'll see them always chirping and doing everything else. God feeds his own. So, but Baal has no shortage of prophets. No shortage of prophets. They will always outnumber God's. Always. It'll never be any other way. It'll always outnumber them. And it begins with people, and they want proofs and parables and interpretations of them. So that's where it begins. What we understanding? This is flat out bottom line stuff. People will sit there and they want infallible proofs. of parables. So when you want the infallible proof of a parable, and then somebody can give you the interpretation per se, saying they can show you the precepts of this, that's not infallible. Interesting, isn't it? Not in our world, it isn't. Because in our world, infallible mean estimation, opinion. In fact, let's go down through this a little bit more. It says, let them, for that reason, give us 2 bullocks. We're going to find out what's going on here. It says, including, let them choose 1 bullock for themselves and cut it in pieces and lay it on wood and put no fire under it. Put no fire under it. See, he's catching you there. See, because fire, we're looking at a functioning of a word, so we can't put no desire of it. So if it's nothing, and it's an idol, it's nothing to do anything, because it's just a desire to have something. And it says, and I will dress another bullock and lay it on wood and put no fire under it. But God wants you to have a desire. See, that's the catch. It's catch 22. But let's get a little bit better. So now we want these proofs. We want these things. So these 2 same opinions, we have 2 beasts. All are familiar with this one opinion. All was raised up with that one opinion. But then you have the other divided in pieces. But then you have Elijah. My God is my guy is the spirit of Yahweh is doing the same. This is the catch. I want you to catch this one. Watch what happens. Verse 24. And ye, and call ye on the way of your gods. Catch 2. You see, he's catching them up. They don't know they getting caught up, but he's catching them up. Because they saying the name, you just can't call on it. You have to call on the way of this person. You have to call on the way of this God. That's why they're getting caught up. And this is why many of us get caught up. It says, and I will call on the way of my spirit of God. You see how he's saying, and I'm going to call on mine. Because his desire is there. He wants you love and desire him. That's he tells you that right up front. It says, and the God will answer by fire. So he's saying, and the God that answered by fire, let him be God. Bingo. But watch this. And all the people answered and said, it is well spoken. Oh, dude, let's do the thing. Let's do it. Idol don't have no desire. It's just an idol. Just a piece of wood. Just a nothing. That's the problem here. But it gets better. So we're going to see there, and all the time we always let the evil go first. Always let evil go first. And you see this, and Elijah said unto the prophet of Baal, choose one of you book. Even one, yeah, you choose one you want. Dress it first, and ye are many. And call on the way of your gods. And put no fire under. Don't put no fire under. Do what you do. Do what y'all do. It's keys. So keep the fire as a key. Keep that as a key, because it's going to play real simple, real serious in a little while. It's going to play a whole lot of serious in a little while. And as we understanding this, we start getting a little bit more anxious in what they trying to do. What they trying to do. And we see this in verse 26. 26, it says this. It says, and they took the bullock, and which was given them, and dressed it, and called, they did this together, on the way of Baal from morning even until noon. They done did this all day. Saying, O Baal, hear us. But there was no voice, nor any that answered, and they leaped upon the altar which was made. This is telling us right up front. Because we got to still remember, those are just images. Those are just images of something that they done conjured up. Verse 27 says, and it came to pass at noon that Elijah mocked them. Now Elijah going to start mocking people. Like he's sitting there at a movie laughing. Think about that. He's now sitting there laughing at them. He's mocking them. And he said, cry aloud, for he is a God. Either he is talking, or he is pursuing, or he is in a journey, or peradventure he's asleep and must be awaked. He gave him all the something's up with him. But he's mocking them. Because the key was desire. The ways of his desire. It don't have one. The desire is the desire of a man. Because a man created it. And we not seeing this, and this is why Elijah had him hand over foot. Because this is what people create. People create these. Verse 28. And they cried and loud and cried themselves after their manner with knives and lances till the blood gushed out of them. They cutting themselves, doing everything crazy. Cutting themselves, trying to sit there to make this thing come alive. Many of us has done this. We have sat there and we prayed and prayed and prayed and prayed and prayed and prayed and prayed, believing something's going to happen. Mixing church and state. Mixing the world with God. 29, it says this. It says, and it came to pass in midday was past, and they prophesied until the time that the offering and evening sacrifice, that there were neither voice nor to answer, nor any that regarded. They didn't get nothing back. Nothing responded. Nothing was responded. So we go down to verse 30. And Elijah said unto all the people, come near unto me. Y'all come on over here. I'm going to show y'all something. And all the people came near unto him, and he repaired the altar of the Spirit of God, and that it was broken down, because they were jumping. Remember, they were jumping on. They were doing everything on it. He said, y'all come on over here. I'm going to show you guys something. I'm going to show you how we work this. And he's telling them right up front. Now he's going to do something. So everybody came over there, and now he's going to show you what's going on. And Elijah took 12 stones according to the number of the tribes of the sons of Jacob, which was the 12 tribes. And he says, unto whom the word of the Spirit of God came, saying, Israel shall be thy name. He putting these little caveats in here, but we missed these. But he's putting caveats in there. Paul talks about this. Paul says, hey, Christ came for this, for that reason right there. For the Spirit of God came. Paul says this. When you look at Romans chapter 9 and verse 4 and 5, it talks about that. But watch what happens here. And the stones was built on the altar in the name of the Spirit of God, and he made a trench about the altar, and as great as certain 2 measure of seed. But he's doing something that's really, really serious. Watch what he does here. And he put the wood under, cut the bullock in pieces, and laid him on the wood, and said, fill 4 barrels with water. You got to remember what's happened in Genesis. See, this is the reason we got to understand Genesis, what he was talking about. And watch what he does here. So he cut the bull, laid him on wood, and filled 4 barrels of water, and he poured them on the burnt offering, on the burnt sacrifice. That is interesting, because it was the burnt is a living exchange for flesh that's being killed, and the sacrifice is the established covenant, filling with water. He's doing Genesis chapter 9 to the letter. To the letter, he's doing it. But watch what happens, because it's going to be just like a flood. Watch what happens. Verse 34. And he said, do it a second time. And they did it a second time. And he said, do it a third time. And they did it a third time. But the desire, when you're giving up the flesh to taking on God with the knowledge, you guys should get the point on why Elijah did what he did. We should get the point there. Because he said, I'm no longer going to destroy this by water. Put an image there. So let's see what happens. Let's look at this all together. And you see this here. And the water ran down about the altar and filled the trench also with water. So he even put all on the ground. It was filled everywhere. Water's everywhere. But he's saying this. In verse 36, he's going to let something be known. And it came to pass at the time of the offering of the evening sacrifice, Elijah, the prophet, came near and said, Spirit of God, of Abraham, Isaac, and of Israel, let it be known this day that thou art God in Israel. Thou art God in Israel, including that I am thy servant. He's just the mouthpiece of God, but he's letting him know, I'm a servant of yours. And it says, in that I have done all these things to thy word, to Genesis chapter 9. I'm telling you, he's catching us up, but he gonna go on. So he says this. He says, hear me, O Spirit of God, hear me, that this people may know that thou art the Spirit of God, and that thou hast turned their heart back again. But he moves further. Verse 38. He goes on more. Then the fire of the Spirit of God fell, consumed the burnt sacrifice and the wood and the stone and the dust, and licked up the water that was in the trench. Bingo. Let's go back over here. Let's look over here. Watch what he says there. I want to show you something in 9:17. In Genesis chapter 9, verse 17, it says, and the Spirit of God said to Noah, this is the token of the covenant which I have established between me and all flesh upon the earth. He told us all this right here. This is what he was doing, to where you just can see it. Not no longer this way, this way. You see him in the crowd of the people. This is why that was so important, because we have a problem with a lot of stuff. So to establish and then once he established, which it tells you right here, because he says, which I have established, ED. So what he did, he confirmed, he determined with all flesh. That's how he's going to do things. But we can see we're violating the law. God has an agreement that he established with flesh, but with the flesh and blood today is colluding to slay innocents. Think about that. I want you to think about that. And with that, the law of flesh seeks its own destruction and don't even know it. And we don't even know we're setting our own destruction here today. Because the angels of devastations will come against in all who rebel against. And to really know what hate, to understand what hate is, we need to find out what that is. And hate is putting enmity between them. So putting enmity between them and God, the covenant, to seek the law of flesh. Flesh will not stop until it's completely destroyed itself. Just to really just think about something, I want, as we move forward, you have body and you have the church, you have the congregation, but then you have state and you have law. So the covenant of God, we have mixed it today with this. We mixed it with political laws in matters of flesh. Mixing matters and issues as one. This is our problem. And it's not. It's two things. So the laws of God is what it is. The laws of God is a way of living, not based on using as a source of power, period. Being examples and not lords over God's people. It's not a way of living. But this is what we have chose to take on. You see, Peter even said that even in his book. You see this in 1 Peter chapter 5, verse 2 and 3. You'll see that there. He said, not being lords over God's heritage. This is the problem. People mixing God law with governance. So it's used today as law of the land and not the way of living. This is the problem because the covenant of God was never to be associated with political matters of the world. Ever. Ever. For example, you have people who want homosexual rights. And you have black rights that they call the civil rights movement. I want you to keep those two in mind. You have like the gay rights, the homosexual rights, the gay rights, and you have the black rights, the civil rights movement. But a movement is another problem because a movement is only the thing to change the position to the position. And not entails to change of location. Talking about living. So it's not the movement with God, but it's the covenant. It's the agreement with God. And that's what we broke. This is why we have a problem. In fact, just to get a little bit better understand where I'm really coming from. And we're going to see this same thing here. Why we basing stuff on a movement and we shouldn't. We basing it not on the right things. In Jeremiah chapter 29, and we're going to pick that up at verse 4. And I want to show you something what he's saying. And it's coming from the mouth of God. So it's coming from one of his prophets. And he's saying this. It says, thus saith the Spirit of God of hosts, the God of Israel, unto all that are carried away captive, whom I've caused to be carried away from Jerusalem unto Babylon. From Jerusalem unto Babylon. So he calls us to be carried away. Now, it's not there to where we go somewhere else and we try to make a movement. We broke the agreement with God, which caused us to be carried away from the land of Jerusalem to the land of confusion. But it's not for us to come there to start creating a movement. That's craziness. But that's what we have done. Mixing church and state. We want to infuse our way into the laws of the land. And God is not going to mix it. This is why we've been marching for the past 60 years and nothing changed. Because they're not going to mix. In fact, he said this in verse 5. He said this in verse 5. It says, build ye houses and dwell in them and plant gardens and eat the fruit of them. Interesting, is it? Build houses and plant gardens and eat the fruit of them. That's really interesting. The reason why that's so interesting, it don't say in there, it don't say, well, I caused you to go to this place of confusion. It says, it don't say build movements and create documents to do these things. Do it. It's not there. The difference in matters of two opinions. But I'm showing you law. I'm showing you something that God said. And people have a problem with that. Let's look at verse 6 and see what's going on. It says, take ye wives and beget sons and daughters, and including take wives for your sons and give your daughters to husbands, that they may bear children and daughters, that ye may be increased therein, not diminish. Interesting, isn't it? So you're still not showing the movement, right? Still not showing the movement of it. In fact, I'm going to show you something. I want to show you something. He was carried away. I want to show you something. Just thinking about it, I want to show you something because this is another big mix-up people have. We're going to go to Genesis chapter 41, and we're going to pick it up at verse 39. I want to show you something, what happened to this one brother. This one brother. And we're going to see this in 41:39. We're looking at Joseph. And Pharaoh, in the land of confusion, Pharaoh spoke to Joseph, and he put Joseph over thing. And you see some of the statements here, we're going to find out a lot more stuff. And he said, and Pharaoh said unto Joseph, he says, for as much as God hath showed thee all this, there is none of discreet and wise as thou art. I want you to think about that, because he's going to say some things to Joseph. And Joseph is in the land of confusion. And thou shalt be over my house. Oh, I thought he was in the land of confusion. Yeah, he is. But he sees what goes on here. He said, but thou shalt be over my house, and according to thy word shall all my people be ruled. Only in the throne will I be greater than thou. He's in the land of confusion. Nothing more, nothing less. And Pharaoh even said this in verse 41. It says, and Pharaoh said unto Joseph, see, I have set thee over all the land of bondage. You got the keys to it. Got the keys to it. In fact, I'll show you something else, and just to make sure we're all on the same page. In Genesis 39, in verse 9, still dealing with Joseph. Joseph actually speaks to his wife. And he says this. He says, there is none greater in this house than I. Joseph talking to Pharaoh's wife. And he's telling, there's none greater than me in this house. He says, neither have he kept back anything from me but thee, because thou art his wife. How then can I do this great wickedness and sin against God? He ain't sinning against Pharaoh, sinning is against God, because God put him in that position. We following this. In fact, let's dig into it a little bit more. Let's go down to Sirach and pull something out of Sirach. We're going to go down to Sirach chapter 10 and look at this even a little bit closer in verse 24. And this, we got to remember what scripture is, and it's everywhere. It says, great men and teachers, including Pontiffs, and those are just sovereign ones. These are ones who control their own destinies. These Pontiffs, these they control their own destinies. These are sovereign ones. Like, in it says, shall be honored, yet there is none of them greater than he that fears the Creator. As the movie said once, John Keach. But that's not got John Keach, but John Keach. None greater than the Creator. None. But you don't see where they sitting there when you holding on to God. It's not sitting there where you going somewhere. You making a movement. You sitting there. You holding on to God. He says, where you go away captive, where you gonna be carried away. You build houses. You dwell in them. You plant gardens. You eat the fruit of them. You take wives and you do these things to yourself. Don't go out there trying to create these movements and all this craziness. The matters of two opinions is what we run into. This is why we had a problem. In verse 7 it says this, back in Jeremiah chapter 29. It says this. It says, seek the peace of the city whether I have caused you to be carried away. Seek peace there. That's where I want you to seek peace there. It says, and pray unto the Spirit of God for it. For in the peace thereof shall ye find peace. So in God, you're going to find it. You see, Joseph found it. But we still had this problem with this movement. We have a problem with church and state. We have a problem with people quickly learning. So what we got to remember is this, and always and never forget it. God is holy. He's separated. So he's separated from fleshly matters. Today, the body is proposed. The church is mixed with church and state business. This is why we're going to continually have the problem. And to show you even more so how they try and they have done successfully mix church and state, this is why you have 501c3. Nonprofit organization. Boom. One body. Two matters of opinion. But we can coincide with one another. 501c3. But then they sit there, and then on the other hand, they talk out the side of their mouth. They talking about we supposed to be able to separate church and state. How is that possible? You 501c3. A lot of things that God condemns is under 501c3. God condemns homosexuality. He condemned that type of hatred. Black, malicious, or white. Doesn't matter. He condemns both sides. So if that's true, then how can you fall under 501c3? Because you want to mix the two matters of opinion. And the law is our predecessor that we are taught. And we're teaching those according to the will, and we will die by them. Because it tells you right here in Scripture, it makes sure this is clear all the time. In the law, it tells us. So we see a lot of this, we entwined in this. In Deuteronomy chapter 17, picking up at verse 17, says this. Says, neither shall thou multiply wives unto himself, that the heart be turned away. Neither shall he greatly multiply unto himself gold and silver. Interesting, isn't it? Highly, highly interesting. The reason this is so interesting, because this is what we do. I don't care how we look at it, how we flip it, how we script it out. Because what happened is when we look at things, we have to look at the same thing what David did and see that David do what we do. Did David not read the book of the law? Did he not read it? Or did he try to differentiate the differences, or did he understand the differences between clean and unclean? King David. I'm asking that question to where you need to answer within yourself. Because if you sit there and say that David knew it and he still sinned, then how can you say that you know it and you still sin? He lay with a woman that wasn't his. He lay with a woman that wasn't his. And we dealing with the law. It's hard to say. It's conjugality is what he's actually was committing, according to the world. And when you sit there and you don't know what person's involved with what. let's look at something. I want to show you something. And we're going to look at consanguinity. We're going to look at that one. I want to show you something. And as you look at this, you can see how it actually plays out and why we don't know who we're dealing with as we do it. Because you don't know how closely related you can be to another person. You just don't know. You don't know what it is. But the same thing, you see you. And you see you and you see children below that, but you see you see the parents, you see the siblings. And as you can move forward, you can see where once you get to your grandparents and your great grandparents, you can see how your cousins, you go further and further away from this. So if you're separated, and this is why you got to make sure this is why I'm even showing you this, why this is even made up here. What is involving? What's the purpose of this? What's the application that we can learn from this, that we can apply it in our lives? This is because it's related in spirit. And if David slept with his brother's wife, because if his brother, he believed in the same God, then they are brothers. So if they're brothers, he slept with his brother's sister. So he slept with his sister. I mean, he slept with his brother's wife, but so he slept with his sister, which makes David wrong. These are the problems that we run into. And we don't look at them. We don't look at them. We don't sit there and trip with them. We don't sit there and think anything about it. Because we try to always mix the two. We always mix in two, which comes more of a problem. We look at this and same thing. We have to look at law. We have to look at law and find out why we keep missing the picture. We keep missing the picture of everything. In Numbers chapter 21, and we're going to look at verse 18. And we see here where we look at stuff and we'll overlook it. It says the princes dig a well and the nobles of the people digged it by the directions of the lawgiver and their staffs, and from the wilderness they went to Mathiah. That's craziness. We don't even get this. This is why it's so irritating. This is why it's so irritating. Because a well is nothing but a pool or a pit. That's all it is. And based on this, the well, and then in the dignity of these princesses, they dig this well, they dig this pit. And those men was not even questioned. Wasn't even questioned on the tongue that they did this in, meaning the custom, the truth, or their ways. Not even questioned. It's all right here. It's all right here in the verse. Because they went to Mathiah. Why? They went there, and they went there with their staves. So they went there with their weapons. And Mathiah is just one who gives a gift. That's it. Giving you something in vain. The direction of a lawgiver. And people won't even question them. The same thing people do today. We won't question people that you learn from. You won't sit there and go and check the matter. You just sit there, and if it rolls good with your brain, you're cool with it. You're cool with it. Let me see if we can get to somewhere with this and see if we can get through to someone in Malachi chapter 1, and we're going to pick it up at verse 10. This text telling it says, "Who is there even among you that will shut the door for naught, neither do ye kindle fire on my altar for naught. I have no pleasure in you, saith the Spirit of God of hosts, neither will I accept an offering at your hand. Why do you think that is being said? Why do you think this is being said? We have to look at it what it is. So we looking at the law as if it was the doors, and we know we shut the doors, and the doors is of Christ. It's telling you right here. But we shut the door to that. Mind you, we shut the doors for naught. We didn't shut the doors to Christ. So if a man enters into the world of the law, and then if you enter into the worlds of God, then you shall be saved. But even if you speak the desires and the offerings, which is upon the offering table, which is the altar, which is a place of slaughter, but you're proud. So what did you exchange it? You're not exchanging anything. You're there to try to make a deal. You're there offering something that has a blemish on it. It's a condition set on that. And we even had a nerves, and this is another big crazy thing. You have people all over the web. All over the web, you go over Facebook, you go everywhere. You got people even name themselves. They call themselves Melchizedek. Stupidity on top of stupidity. We have people, they naming themselves these names of that see in the Bible. And just call themselves that. And no closer to God just in name. Just in name. We should be ashamed of ourselves. We should be 100% ashamed of ourselves. It's rampant. We'll make up any kind of name we want. And it's rampant. And to show you even more so, even while we're getting into this, you see this in Ezekiel. We see this there. It's clear as day. But some people have a problem with this. Some people have a problem. But ask me, do I care? Because the thing is, everybody want to hear a feel-good message. People, they want to hear something that makes them feel good. But it's telling you, it says, Son of man, I have made thee a watchman unto the house of Israel. For that reason, hear the word at my mouth and give them warning from me. That's all I need to do. Give you a warning. What I see is not cool. What I see is not cool. So we have a problem. We have a problem within Israel. And the problem is we clicking up with stuff that we shouldn't even be clicking up with. So we want to understand something. I want to show you something. And actually, before that, I'm gonna show you something, because most of it I'm gonna share some worldly words with you to where you can get it. But then I'm gonna show you what it really is, because most people have I don't know if many people heard of contextualization, and it's used in the English world quite a bit. Textualization. I'm gonna show it to you because I want you to see it. And then I'm going to tell you how it works and tell you what it's all about. So we're going to look at this and show you something. And we're going to put this in there because I want you to know what it is. Contextualization. That's what this is. And I want you to understand that. Because it makes the prophecies clear. Because if we can do that right there, that comes with a discipline. And I'm just going to put that there, just a discipline. That comes with a discipline. And I'm going to show you what that is, and we're going to see what it is. And it comes with a discipline. We're going to put that. Actually, let me Let me put that there. I'm just gonna, and I'm gonna define it more so for you. E, yeah, got it right. Okay. And I just want you to understand what that word is, contextualization, because I'm gonna define it for you, and we're gonna see, and you can probably even go check it, and you'll see. I'm being right up front with you, but I'm gonna define it for you more so what it's all about. And the reason why we need to understand what contextualization is, and it makes the word, and what we like to do, we like to take contextualization, we take that and we trash it. That's what we do. But it's a discipline. But we take that word and we trash it. This is not a biblical word. So let's not get this mixed up. It's a regular word, but we trash it. But do it have a biblical viewpoint? Yeah, it do. Because it's a discipline. And it takes this discipline, this personal management, to what we can apply inside our lives is contextualization. Textualization is a skill that's defined on an instructional approach, which has this explicit connection between one thing that you're being taught, and you can be taught, you can read it, or you can write it. Contextualization, it's a strict discipline. So with that, we have to find out the examples of what contextualization is. So contextualization also involves a skill that what you're taught, which you can help you with the basic references actually in the Bible. And the instructions is based on contextualization, based on precepts. Any topic that's being taught, you can see it. It's interesting, isn't it? The reason why I say that is this. Contextualization it's really unique. It's really unique, and you probably don't hear it much in there, but it's out there, and you'll see this there. You'll see. We'll go to Psalms 119, and we're going to pick it up at verse 4. We're going to pick it up right there. Contextualization at its best, and it's saying, "Thou hast commanded us to keep thy precepts diligently." Contextualization at its best. The instructions of keeping God's precepts. Contextualization. Why is this so strict? Because it's telling you exactly what you must do to understand a subject, a matter in this book. It's at its best right there. It's best right there. But the problem we have, we can sit there and we can sit under people who can't do that one bit, or they'll do it kind of anyway, where they're double talking different places. In contextualization or precept, it's a strict discipline to which you can't bend from it. This is let's look at this a little bit different. Let's look at this a little bit different. Same thing. We'll see here. I'm just going to highlight that. But we're going to look at Isaiah 28 in verse 10. It says, "For precept must commanded be upon precept." It's a strict discipline. Precept upon precept, line upon line, here a little and there a little. It's at its best. It's a strict discipline. But the problem we have is we don't use this. We don't like to go through this. We want to sit there and do things our own way. Interesting. And the reason why people tell you, oh, that's not in context. That's not contextualization. Not in context. In their mind, in what they're understanding, in their way, their beliefs. But when you keep in something in contextualization, the entire Bible is contextualized. Period. So for you to understand it, you have to keep everything in precepts. You have to keep them diligently. You have to keep them in that strict approach. And the reason why I say even why we have a problem, because just to show you how we don't pay attention to this. I'm gonna show you something and show you this is clear. And most people tell you, I done read the Bible this time, I done read it this many times, I done did all these things. And people will say this, and you hear it quite a bit. And you find out it's really different. Because if you did it, it says, for Christ is not entered into holy places made with hands, which are figures of the truth, but into heaven itself now appear in the presence of God for us. That's interesting. The reason that's so interesting, because he's telling you he don't enter in holy places made with hands. So if somebody built something saying that this is a place of God, and we must keep the precepts, and we're commanded to keep them, and we're supposed to have a strict discipline, how did we miss this? How did this get missed? Why is the church so filled? Why is this happening? Did we study the Bible wrong? I know we done read one of these. In fact, we're gonna go to another place. We're gonna go somewhere else. And just look at this. In Psalms 89 and verse 34. My covenant will I not break, nor alter the thing that is gone out of my lips. It's not changing nothing. But we missed the strict discipline of precepts. You tell me who fault it is. You tell me. See, when we look at this, and he's saying this right here, and the same thing is, I'm just going to go in a few places, just going around, and just to show you something. And he says this in Numbers 23. We was there earlier, 23:19. It says, God is not a man that he should lie, neither the son of man that he should repent. Have he said, and shall not he do it? Or have he spoken, and should he not make it good? It's right here. It's right here. I know we done read that. I know we read that. In Malachi chapter 3, verse 6, it says this, and even more. He's telling you right here with the full thought. He says, for I am the Lord, I change not. I'm not changing. I'm not altering nothing. So what's happening here? And you get right back to Hebrews, and we'll go in another place in Hebrews chapter 13, picking it up at verse 8. And that's what we're going to be dealing with next week is Christ. Because it's saying in salvation of the anointed one is the same yesterday, today, and forever. So if this, and we kept everything supposed to be this strict discipline, but they saying everything got to be in context. And it must, and commanded, how did we miss those? Christ is not entering the holy places. How did we miss that? Can anyone answer that for themselves? Can anyone answer that for themselves? So now we see where these problems is lying. We see what's going on. See, but we should have seen the importance and fully grasped the Bible as a whole and not in sections of text on what people taught you. We have all taken this thing and run this amok. We're not using no preceptual view. We're doing everything based on context. It's not in context. It's not in context. Precept must be upon precept. Line up must be upon line. And here, little there. That's using strict contextualization skills. So we can see the importance of the Bible is correctly and is not isolating the Word of God. Because we have to keep his precepts diligently. This is why I say we come to this point and we just don't know what's happening. In fact, let me show you something. I want to show you something. And see how we'll catch this. See how we'll catch this here. We're gonna go to Luke chapter 14, picking it up at verse 26. I want to show you something. Verse 26. Watch how people gonna just screw this up. It says, providing any man come to me and hate not his father, including mother, including wife, including children, including brethren, including sister, yea, and his own life, also cannot be my disciple. Rule Book 101. Rule Book 101. So we know that hate is despised. We know hate is despised. And it's a way of contextualization that comes in. So if we despise something, we have to put enmity between it. And that's why hate comes there. Hate is putting enmity between not his father, is what that's saying. That's what that's saying. So if a man putting that enmity between his father, his mother, because everybody's flesh. In fact, let me bring some of this in to where we can look at this a little bit better and understand some of this a little bit closer. In Deuteronomy chapter 24, we're going to look at these here. We're going to see something. It says, and a man have taken a wife and married her, and it come to pass that she find no favor in his eyes, because he have found some issues, found some uncleanness in her. Then let him write her a bill of divorcement. A bill of divorcement. It says, and give it in her hand and send her out his house. In verse 2 it says, and she shall depart out of the house, she may go and be another man's wife, including if the latter husband hate her and write her a bill of divorcement, and giveth it in her hand, sendeth her out of his house, or if latter husband die, which took her to be his wife, her former husband that sent her away may not take her again to be his wife. So we have problems here. We want to understand what they are. And we want to understand what they are because these here we want to completely get. We want to completely get it. And we have to know what they are to help us all out. So I'm just going through and I want to sit there. Wait a second. I had the bill. Income, find no favor. Yeah, we want a couple of parts in here. I said it had another part I wanted in here. Don't see it, but we'll deal with it. Oh yeah, here we go. That's the one. That's the one I want. So we want to understand what this is so where we can understand it. So he want to put enmity between her, but we want to know what the bill is. We want to put the bill is, we need to know what bill is. We need to know what divorce actually is. We need to know what these things are to really help us out. So the bill is an act of circumcision. That's all the bill is. Which flesh cannot be separated. But they did it here. That's why the bill is an act of circumcision of the flesh, which cannot be separated by man. It's impossible. It's impossible. Actually, we can look at this even here in Luke 14. Luke 14:16. We're going to see something here and look at something. It says right here, because I want to show you something else, what we're going to see. Because when you do something, we got to make sure we got to put enmity between this. Because what we're going to do is what we do. We separate stuff, and we don't know why we separating ourselves from it. But you really putting enmity between yourself and God. That's what you're doing. Why I want you to see this here. It says a certain man made a great supper and bade many. I want you to really see what he's going to say here. And as it goes on, we're going to see something that really happens to what we do. It says, and he sent his servant at supper time to say to them that were bidden, come, for the things are now ready. And they all which one consent began to make an excuse. They began to make excuses. What I said, this is what we do. We're good for doing this. And the first said unto him, I brought a piece of ground, and I must need to see it. I pray thee, have me excused. Are you serious? So we have forsaken many things. We done all these types of things. And we're going to always find an excuse not to do it. Not to do it. But it gets better. It gets way better. And we had to go down to verse 19. Because another one talked. And the other said, I have bought 5 yoke of oxen. And I go to prove them. I pray thee have me excused. See, when it comes to using strict precepts and using those all the time, you're going to always have an excuse. Always. Always. Because when you really know what the truth is and you find out what the truth is, now you have a reason to where you don't want to do what is actually what you're seeing. Because now you're seeing what the truth is and you don't like what you see. This is us 101. Another said, I have married a wife. I therefore cannot come. We got an excuse for everything. I don't care what it is. Bought some land, got some oxen. This is our problem. So we see there, and you see it says, so the servant came and showed his Lord these things. Then the master of the house be angry, said his servant, go out quickly in the streets and the lanes in the city, and bring in hither the poor, the maimed, and the halt, and the blind. Because our pattern of lives, and we have to sit there, because he's not looking for us to go through all these excuses. And this is what we do. Because soon as you see, when you see and you have tasted, you have experienced the truth. Some people will make excuses to go back to their old lifestyle. Some people are going to go back to what they was doing because it's not a pretty thing. But he tells you why he do what he do. He tells you why. We have to bear our own cross. We have to bear that. And many of us is not willing to do that. Many of us is not willing to bear our own cross. Mean our own suffering unto death. Many of us is not willing to do those things. The reason why, because we didn't have friends we want to be staying tied to. We have different things we want to stay in with. We don't want those to be separated. We want those to stay the way they are. So this is why we had that problem. So let's go back down and let's go back down to 26, and he says this again. I actually got it over there, but I'm going to go ahead and use this one since it's over here. He says, if any man come to me and hate not his father and mother, including his wife, including children, including brother, and including sister, yea, in his own life, also he cannot be my disciple. But the reason for that statement is there. It says, including whosoever doeth not bear his cross. If you don't bear your own suffering unto death, if you're not willing to bear that, because now you know what the truth actually is. This is why so many people is going to be removed. This is one of them. So many people, because they refuse, because they want to stay clicked in with sisters and brothers and mothers and fathers based on the lifestyles that they have with them. And he said, you have to give that up. Not you separate yourself. They separate themselves, but if they please to dwell with you, they're going to dwell with you. But some of them is going to despise it. And since they despise it, they're going to separate themselves from it. They're going to put enmity between you. They're going to hate you. They're going to put enmity between you. And they do so, and you don't bear that and come after him, you cannot be his disciple. It's impossible. So we have to look at this thing and see what's going to forsake the flesh and what's going to forsake God. The method is strict contextualization, as what the world want to say, but its precept must be upon precept, line must be upon line, and here's some and there's some. So using these terms as the ground language, which we can grasp the framework, which is relating us to what we need to know based on the angel or the messenger, and his desires and motivation is the evidence of the potential to increase the achievement of your understanding precepts as a whole. It's clear. Oh, it's clear. Because some people is not going to understand it. Some people is not going to want to go through it. We go back and we visit that and see this all in its fullness. And main thing is most people are going to always shy away from this. Psalms 119 verse 4, thou hast commanded us to keep the precepts diligently. He commanded us to do this. This is commanded to do. So if that's commanded for us to do, then why in the world we don't do that? We commanded to. But then we even sit under people who can't do that at all and think nothing about it and make an excuse for it. Just like over here. We'll make an excuse for it. Because it's saying for precept must be upon precept. Precept upon precept, line upon line, line upon line. Here a little and there a little. We don't care about these two. We have a piece of land. We got to prove it. So at this point, we can't seek fault. We cannot seek fault. We have learned that we are raised up, and people are trying to even say, well, I was raised up in the church under my mother and under my father. Okay, you're grown. You can't seek fault. So either you're going to have a opinion between these scriptures. We going on record with God, the God of Israel. We're going on record, and we have abandoned this. We abandoned God. I even be the first to say I abandoned him. I was younger. Reading the Bible, everything, but I abandoned everything I just showed you. Because I didn't use contextualization. I didn't take on the strict precepts because I was believing a man. I was believing in a man, which was 100% contradictory to the Bible. I was 100% guilty. I was 100% foolish. And I was putting enmity between me and God based on foolishness of man. So I can make those clear admitting on what I did. But you have many people, they will admit what they did, but they're gonna put a blemish back. Well, this is why. Okay, I can care less why. The reason why, because they have to put that problem on someone else. Because they themselves abandon contextualization or precepts. We constantly go through this. And I want you to look at something to really where we can know when knowing the truth, do we return to those things? And I'm gonna show you something. I want to show you something here. Look at this here, and you just think about it. You meditate on it. In Numbers chapter 14 and verse 18. Numbers 14 verse 18. We're going to look at this here. We're going to see straight up front. It says, the Spirit of God is long suffering, including of great mercy, forgiving the iniquity. Forgiving the iniquity. We got to know what this stuff is. Forgiving the iniquity, including transgression, and by no means clearing the guilty, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children unto the third and fourth generation. He's clear. But forgiving. We got to understand what that is. That's a word that was blended together. Forgiving. That's two words put together. Actually, I'll tell you what. English is a weird language, but I understand it. So we're gonna look at this, and I'm gonna pour this one in. It's two words blended together. So and this is all this. That's all it actually is. It's two words joined together. Technically all it is. But they use that and people make it different. And this is a big problem we have. So what it's telling us again, it's telling us right here. Forgiving. The reason what it's promised about is forgiving the iniquity. The reason he's doing it. He's telling you why. What he promised you. And he's telling you for the iniquity, for the acts of sin. Including the transgression, the sacrilege, the rebellions of sin. The reason for forgiving him. He's telling you what you done this, and this is what I promised you this, and this is the reason I'm doing it. We can't. I don't even get this. I shouldn't even have to be doing this. So we have this problem. But he's telling you, he says, including by no means clearing the guilty. He's not clearing you for this. He's not clearing you for sin. He's forgiving you for doing them. He's forgiving you, especially you done went into these buildings and you done went under these false doctrines. You done did all these things and you done went all this crazy way. But he's saying, "Ron, tell you what though. But when you actually get the truth and you turn and go right, I can forgive you for it. I'm not clearing you of it, but I can forgive you for it." Contextualization at its best. Precepts at its best. In fact, yeah, people they like to use these two other things. They like to use hermeneutics and they like to use exegesis in these seminaries. They like to use these things. In it's the stupidest thing in the world, but this is a human, a personal human view. Hermeneutics and exegesis. In actually, I'm gonna tell you, what, I'm gonna put it up. I'm gonna put them up because I'm gonna tell you, they might put it a little bit different, but I'm gonna show you what it actually means. They might put it different. They might put it different, but I'm gonna show you what it actually means. So let me move these up out the way because I'm gonna show you what it means. But it might show different in if you look it up, just in case if you look it up. But I'm gonna show you what it actually means. In exegesis, well, let's do hermeneutics. EUCS. Let me see. Yep, that's right. Okay, so we got hermeneutics. Hermeneutics. I want you to pay attention to what hermeneutics is. It's a science. This is hermeneutics at its best. And actually, I'm going to put a border around that. We'll put a border around that. And then I'm going to do exegesis. And they might say a little bit different, but that's what it is. That's the foundation of it. That is what it is. Exegesis, they use this one. That's another one. That's what exegesis is. It's a critical interpretation. So critical interpretation, a science of interpretive principles, is what exegesis and hermeneutics is. That's what it is. Go look it up. You'll find it. They might try to say it around another way, but that's the foundation of what those are. That is what those are. So when you sit there and you look for them, that's what it is. And they might say it differently. They might try to go around about it, but find out the root of it. And that's the root of it. That is the root of hermeneutics. That's the root of exegesis. And basically what they do, it's not based at all on precepts itself. At all. It is not based on precepts. Because when you look at Psalms, when you go to Psalms and you look at this all together, we're going to look at something. We're going to go to 119. You see that there. It says, through thy precepts I get understanding. For that reason I hate every false way. Not in critical interpretation or interpretive principles of using something. Precepts. Where you get understanding. Not through exegesis and hermeneutics. It's impossible. So this is where we run into our problem at. This is why people will sit there and they invoke these things. This is where you come under Christian doctrine. This is where you come under these principles. You come under these seminaries, and most people, you go in seminary, that's what they're going to run that. Automatically. That is what they're going to run. How do I know? I sat in one for 3 years. And that's what they run. And it's total confusion. That's why all I had was 2 more classes, and I would have actually got a degree in divinity. But I couldn't sit there because I was constantly running into contradictions using those principles, hermeneutics and exegesis. Because they're going to keep everything in context. They're going to isolate it. They can't keep it in contextualization. But people tell, well, I was in a seminary. It doesn't matter. If you're in there, that's what you're running. I don't care what seminary you go in the world. That's what they use. So this is why it'll be and make things so frustrating, because people still, no matter what, in some way, shape, or form, they're going to use those principles right there. But we to keep precepts diligently. We've seen that. But if we do that, we won't adhere to lies. It tells that through that precepts we get understanding. Therefore, we hate every false way. We won't get tied up in lies. But people say, they hear this all the time. I never heard this doctrine before. I hear it continuously. Man, I never heard nobody teach like you. I hear it all the time. All the time. But the thing is, it's not for me to be big-headed. I'm teaching what's in the Bible. But when they say they never heard this doctrine before, why? Why? We have to look at it for what it is. We have to look at, it was a people. It was a people who kept the culture of what it is, and who I learned from, who kept everything in precepts, or the world side of it, contextualization. So precepts of scripture, the same as my mother would say, I didn't know that, didn't know this. We have to look at what the law is and how the law works. And this is law structure. Law is going to make itself known no matter what. No matter what. Law is the law of God. It's going to make itself known to you. So why I tell you, you didn't come by here by accident. You came by here by choice. By law. And the culture of it. It's like a bump. Like you can have a bump on your face, like a bump, and pus is trying to come out. I hate to say it that way, but that's technically, well, I didn't use a good example, but that is what it is, though. It's like pus trying to come out of a bump. So it's like something that the skin cannot contain it anymore. The sin that's trying to come out. So it's the same within the law. And the reason at the point, and what we have to really understand, is the point of why Christ came. Because we don't want, and it's always a point, the only reason he comes is for visitations. And to understand the interpretations of the law, we have to understand the spirit and the covenant and the ways and the truth and the degree that was made with that covenant. So it just makes me just a messenger, just delivering a message, a warning. Nothing more, nothing less. That many of us is going to be removed from the book. Like it or not, it doesn't matter. Like it or not, it don't matter. But a lot of us are going to be removed from the book based on what we try to hold on to. Because just like I said, many of us don't know really who Christ is. I'm going to go into that next week. But a lot of us don't know who Christ actually is and what he is and how he functions. See, God's spirit is coming sooner than many of us think. See, when he comes, he's coming for a visitation. He's coming to do something. He's coming way sooner than you really think. And everyone that have sinned against God and didn't get it corrected, or they continually sin thinking that they cool about it, will be blotted out of the book. Actually, I'm going to show you something. I want to show you something. Let's go somewhere. let's go to Exodus, and we're gonna see something in Exodus. And this is why we're dealing with a lot of law, because I'm just a messenger. And in Exodus chapter 32 and verse 34. 32, 34. And we'll see this there. And you're going to see what he's coming to visit. This is the problem. You're going to see what he's coming to visit. And most people don't even know this is why he visits. The visit is for a reason. And he says it right here. He says, therefore, now go lead the people. Lead the people unto a place which I have spoken unto thee. Remember, my angel shall go before thee. Nevertheless, in the day when I visit, when he visits, I will visit their sin upon them. He ain't coming to visit how good you're doing. He's visiting your sin. Yeah. His return is coming. And many people, it's why I even tell people sometimes about the movie of The Matrix. The same thing when the lady told Neo. She said, as soon as you walk out the door, you'll immediately start feeling better. A lot of people after this right here, a lot of people gonna start feeling right better. But believe me, we got a problem. We have a serious problem. Many of us gonna stay in error no matter what, thinking they keeping everything in context and not in contextualization. So a lot of us, it's just going to be marked out the book. And you think your poop don't stink, but your poop do stink. In Romans chapter 6 and verse 14, we have to understand what's going on. It says, for sin shall not have dominion over you, but we do let it do it. It says, for you are not under the law, but under grace. But what is that? What is grace? See, the only way you can invoke grace, you have to don't live under sin. Let's look at this a little bit closer. And it says, what then? Shall we sin because we're not under the law, but under grace? God forbid. No. But we under sin. We under the law of sin. But people say, well, how can I get rid of this? And there's ways in doing this. Let's go a little bit closer and let's look at this a little bit closer. In Romans chapter 7, verse 1, it tells us, it's really clear, but most people still take this as catchphrases and not really understanding how serious this is. It says, know ye not, brethren, for I speak to them who know the law. The way he going to key back in on this same topic, the law. But he says, how that the law have dominion over man, over flesh, as long as he liveth. Yeah. You can't never get the spirit over to be over flesh, because flesh he's not going to save. It's impossible. It's not going to change anything. So the law of flesh going to always have dominion over flesh. Always. It's never going to change. So since many people are going to live under the law of flesh, you're going to die under the law of flesh. But is there a way out of it? See, is there a way out of it? See, that should be a question. Is there a way out of this? And it's not sitting there saying, may this cup pass from me, because we got to take the cup. we got to drink from that cup. We are going to drink from that cup. Each and every one of us that can hear me right now, we are going to drink from that cup. But I want to show you something. Stay in strict contextualization. I'm going to show you something to help us out a little bit. And we'll see this here and make sure. It says, for in Romans chapter 8, verse 13, it says, for if we live after the flesh, ye shall die, because it has dominion over a man as long as he lives. So if you live after it, you're going to die. But it says, but through the Spirit, And if you live according to the Spirit, you're going to mortify the deeds. You're going to mortify the works of the flesh, and so your body is not going to do it, and you will live. This is right up front. So it's a way out of this. It's a way out of this. But we have to be willing to take that on. Not get caught up with our father, our mother, our sister, our brothers, our wives, our husbands. Can't get caught up with that. We got to mortify those deeds. So it tells us this when we look back down here in Romans 7:4. So if we're going to mortify the deeds, it tells us right up front. It says, wherefore, my brother, ye become dead to the law by the body of Christ. So we going to be part of the body. Or are you? If we part of the body of Christ, then the flesh and the works of it is dead according to the deeds of the flesh. It's not going to work. So we got to stop doing some things. Because the deeds of the flesh are these, and we'll find that out as we go through Scripture. And main thing is we got to stay strict on what it's saying, because we got to remember all of it works together as unison. In Galatians chapter 5, picking it up at verse 19, he says this and makes sure that we completely understand that this was works are made known of the flesh, which are these: adultery, spiritual or fleshly. Because if you're doing it spiritually, where did you learn it from? You learned it from the flesh. You didn't learn it from the Spirit. You learned it from the flesh. Fornication, spiritually and fleshly. You didn't learn it from the Spirit. You learned it from the flesh. Uncleanness, lasciviousness, idolatry, witchcraft, hatred, variance, ill emotions, wrath, strife, heresy, seditions, evil, murderings, drunkenness, rivalries, and such like. These are your things here. So what are the factors of being a homosexual and the factors of being an adulterer? What's the difference? What's the difference? Why will you call people a thief and then you sit there and you sit right there in a swine's pen of a church building and they take up money? And you want to call somebody a whore? It's interesting, isn't it? These are the things that we have to look at under the law. Why the law don't work for many of us. Because a lot of us are going to be judged because we have taken liberty and not following them. In fact, James, I wish I had his brother, he spoke on that. He spoke on that. In James chapter 2 and verse 12, he spoke on that. It says, so speak ye, and so do, as they shall be judged by the law of liberty. Picking and choosing what we're going to abandon and not abandon. Using the law of liberty. This is interesting. This is interesting. So we discount that and we don't look at it. But as it tells us right there in verse 11, we were just talking about this. We were just mentioning this. It says, for he said, do not commit adultery, said also, do not kill. Now, if thou commit no adultery, yet if thou kill, thou art become a transgressor of the law. You still forgot it. You still didn't do what was said by it. We become offenders. We're transgressors. We're destroyers and offenders of that. So we keep these contradictions going. We keep this going in Scripture. And one of the biggest ones, and then what I'm going to do, I probably end up going in the Zoom area just to make sure that my seniors understood what's going out. And I'm going back there mainly for them to make sure what's going out. And I want to make sure you understand something. Because one of the main points and where we break the law, God, because what we'll do, we'll say one of the biggest false understandings that's in the world. People say, I pray for understanding of the law of God. Or they say, I pray for understanding. I read the Bible and I pray for understanding. The biggest false understanding that's out there. I'm going to show you, and we're going to deal with this as a whole. Because they say this, and you hear it all the time. People, oh yeah, I pray for understanding. God gave me the understanding. Okay. All fine, well and good. That's why most times when most people even tell me, I really don't say anything. And I'm going to show you why. Because the scriptures is clear again. In Exodus chapter 31, we're going to look at law. We're going to look at law. Law. Laws of God. We're going to look at law of God. And we're going to find out something. And it says that, and the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, and watch what he says. He says, see, I have called by name way Belzalim. I want you to understand this one. We're gonna do some things with this. Because we know this is functioning as something else. The son of Ora, functioning of these. The son of Or, functioning of these. Of the tribe of Judah. Okay. So just keep this guy. Called by name Belzalim. Meaning that is the shadow of Jehovah. Under the shadow, under Jehovah's shadow. That's what that name means. In Orich, or Aura, is the Spirit of God, is my light. That's this guy. And Or just means child. From the tribe of Judah. So, what is this saying? So it's just telling you that Or, the child, the Spirit of God is the light of Belzalim and under the shadow of Jehovah. All it said. All it's saying. And it goes on more. And it tells you this. It says, I have filled him with the Spirit of God and wisdom and understanding and knowledge and all manner of workmanship. That's what he did. This is why Jehovah sat there and he had filled that child like that. That's why it says that we should follow in his steps. That's why it says that. When you see that in 1 Peter. That's why we get that. Because he filled him. So we need to know what the Spirit is talking about. So he's being filled. But watch what he says here. It's just really clear. Right here is what we want. To devise cunning works, to work in gold, including in silver, including in brass. Highly interesting. The reason why, because to work in gold, to work in men, to work in women, and to work in children. Yeah. Interesting, isn't it? When we really understand what he's actually saying, because he's spirit, so he has to show us parables and similitudes. And he's telling you right here, again, it says, in cutting of stones, and set them in carvings and timbers, to work all manner of workmanship. Interesting again. The cutting, the separating. The separation of stones of beliefs. I'm telling you, he's telling us right up front exactly what's going on. And to where he could separate those beliefs so we won't be thrown to and fro. The carving. You see where he's carving the timber. The figures of timber. Trees. Elders. Of all workmanship. So the same problem that we have, people will tell you, oh, to be a pastor or a teacher, oh, you just can just go do this. That's not to be a pastor or teacher. One must be filled with God's wisdom, understanding, and knowledge. Not something you choose to do, something that you're appointed to from him. from the Holy Spirit itself, who is obedient to God's calling that he bestowed on them. Then his Spirit, then who he selects, equips those people for service to transfer in his likeness, in his image, and everything else that he needs you to do, the work that he need done. The Bible also teaches us that about false teachers will come, and many will present themselves being teachers of light and are not. They're thieves and robbers and kill and steal and destroy. That's why you can go to many people YouTube page. You'll see support this ministry, donate this, donate that. Why are you doing that? And he already had a covenant. He already have an agreement with his servants. He have an agreement with them. But we'll hold on to these other things. We'll hold on to this silliness. This is what we do. So, as the Bible teaches us about one thing, we still holding on to something else. So what I'm gonna do, with the law, hopefully most people understand what most things going on with the law. Cause we're gonna pick this up next week, and we're gonna be going through another part of that. And I want to sit there and I want to make sure my my other one still understands. So what I'm getting ready to do is set up a Zoom real quick, and it's for my older people to make sure they understood pretty much what was going out. So what I'm doing right now is setting that up for them mainly, and that's what I'm making sure of. So with that, I'm getting ready to tell you guys to do something in 1 second. Give me 1 second. And so right now, if you refresh your screen, you will be able to see the link for the meeting ID, to where you can get in the back area and come back. And I'm mainly seeking my seniors, for them to come back and see if they made sure they understood what was going on. So that's what that one is for them to come back there to make sure they will understand what was being said. So with that, I wish to each and every person, until next time, we're going to continue on, but then next time we hopefully that each and every person will continually go forward and understand what's going on with the law and why we have a problem and why a lot of us is not going to make it. A lot of us are going to be removed from the book of life itself, and it's our own fault on why that happened. So with that, I say to each and every person, until next time. And if you look down in the description, you can see the link over to Zoom. So other than that, I say to each and every person, shalom.
tomorrow.